Okay, I think it's time for us to get this started. So hello again. Welcome to Adroll and Talkable's webinar about growing your brand with referral marketing. Before we get started, I just wanted to run through a few quick housekeeping items to make sure everything's in order. So if you can hear me, can you please type in yes and submit it into the Q&A box that's on your screens to the left? It'd be super helpful. Great, perfect. Looks like I can be heard. That's awesome. So again, we're hosting this today with Talkable. My name is Elliot Moore. I'm our North America Marketing Manager here at Adroll, overseeing all of our campaigns that deal with any of our clients and any marketers in the North American space. I'm really excited today to be teaming up with Mahika from Talkable, who's the head of customer success there. There's a lot of really great information around referral marketing and how you can really make it work to help grow your brand. So with that, I wanted to pass it over to her.
Hi everybody, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. So really excited to talk to you guys about referral marketing today. So as Elliot mentioned, some of the content that we're focusing on today is starting by an overview of referral marketing and why referral marketing does work, launching and measuring the success of your program if you are interested in referrals, how you can continuously optimize and test the program, and then finally deterring fraud and leveraging influencers. So what is referral marketing and why is it like word of mouth on steroids? Let's talk about Uber here for a second. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Uber and the way that it works, and some of you might have seen the referral program which is within the Uber app. So let's say I want to share Uber with somebody in my family who hasn't used it before. I go onto my Uber app and I send them a referral. Once they do sign up for Uber and actually take an Uber ride, I then get credit. And that's basically how referral marketing works, is it's that word of mouth going from you to somebody that you know and talking to them about a specific brand. On the next slide here, we have some examples of specific screens, and these are screens from a company that we work with called Society6. So for example, on the left side, we have the share page where we show this to advocates on the Society6 website, and you can share this to your friends through multiple channels. On the right side, we have an example of what the friend would see on their side to get that introductory discount on their first purchase. Why does referral marketing work? It can basically help you achieve a lot of different objectives. Number one is acquiring new customers, and this is typically what most of our customers use referrals for, is acquiring new customers. It's just much more effective as a source of getting new customers than, let's say, some other means. And the reason for this is it's really personal. If somebody that you know is actually telling you that you're probably going to be interested in this particular product or this particular brand, and so it's a great tool to acquire new customers. Number two is maximizing revenue. So not only can it help you get new customers, obviously you want those new customers to make purchases, but you can also focus on increasing your revenue to get your existing customers to come back and make repeat purchases, or even refer other customers to try to increase your repeat purchase rate. So you can really focus on maximizing revenue. That does go hand in hand a little bit with acquiring new customers, but it can also be a goal by itself. The third is growing your email list. So we typically do have an opt-in button on most of our screens for the person that is sharing and then the person that does come into the brand as well. And so you can definitely grow your email list through referral. We've also done some campaigns that are focused completely on email collection and have seen great results for that. And then finally, retaining existing customers. So as I mentioned, most of our customers will focus on acquiring new customers through Talkable, but we do see that some customers will provide offers for existing customers as well, because they do want those customers to come back and make repeat purchases. And so referral can also be a great way to do that. And then the second part of this, of course, is that for that existing customer that is referring their new friends, we do typically give them some sort of reward that they can use to come back and make a purchase on the site. So it's a great way to get those advocates, those people that are making the referrals for you, to also come back and be more engaged on the site and actually make a purchase. Just some additional statistics here on why referrals are so effective. So you see a screenshot here from one of our customers, Tom's. And so with Tom's, for example, if I'm on Tom's and I see their shoes, and it actually makes me think of my friend Olivia, who might be really interested in their shoes as well. I feel like they really fit her style. What I can then do is actually refer my friend to Tom's. And it's a win-win situation. I just referred her to a brand that I think that she'd be interested in, and if she does go ahead and make that purchase, I'm going to get a reward for that as well. So a couple of statistics here. 81% of people do say that posts from their friends directly influence their purchase decision. It is that one-to-one connection that you have with your friend, so it is a very effective way of marketing. And 30% of people are also more likely to respond to brand offers when they have been reposted by a friend. So not only does this have to be a one-to-one where maybe I text my friend about it or email them about it, but it might be something that I post on social media. And being a brand advocate is really helpful in trying to get my friends to make a purchase as well. So now that we've established that we think referral is a really effective way to market to your customers, how do you actually go about launching your referral program and measuring its success? So to launch a successful program, as I mentioned earlier on, you definitely want to define your main objectives. Is it acquiring new customers? Is it increasing revenue? Is it decreasing your cost per acquisition? Or is it growing email subscribers? Some of these objectives can definitely go hand in hand, but it's really important to define this when designing your referral program. For example, if the main focus, the primary focus, is increasing revenue, maybe your referral offer should be something that is valid for all customers that are being referred and not just new customers. Or maybe if it's growing email subscribers, you want a different kind of referral program that's not that focused on the friend actually making a purchase, but instead signing up for your newsletters. So defining your main objective is very, very critical before you go about setting up your referral program. Number two, knowing your audience. You ultimately know your audience the best as that brand owner. And so what is the kind of messaging that they respond to? We see a lot of different customers in our portfolio with a huge varied audience, from teenagers to an older audience. And there is a big difference in how people react to different messaging. And so you want to make sure that all of your messaging around referral is catered to your audience specifically. And going along with that, incentivizing your customers. Since you do know your audience, it's good to figure out what incentivizes them the most. What is the best thing that you can give them to really become a brand advocate for you? What's actually going to motivate them to take that extra step to not just purchase something on your website, but actually refer their friends as well? And then finally, promoting your program. You can have all the first three things set up, and that's great, but if nobody sees your program, you're not going to have a very successful program. I know this sounds really simple, but oftentimes it's something that we run into really, really often. So you want to make sure that you're promoting your program not just on your website, but also through all your different channels, for example, email and social media as well. So measuring success, this is an example of a referral funnel that we do have. So the referral funnel for us is really, really important. What it tells us is what parts of the customer journey is working really well and what parts of the customer journey needs to be improved upon. So I'll go through each of these metrics in more detail. These are, of course, just example metrics, not benchmarks. We typically benchmark across industries very differently, but it does give you an idea of what you want to measure. So starting from the top of the funnel here is the advocacy rate, and this is the advocate metric, the person that's actually making that referral for you. Advocacy rate is basically measured based on the number of people that see your program and then how many of those people actually share. So for example, a 12% advocacy rate means that you've had 100 people that have actually seen your program, And of that, 12 people have then gone ahead and shared it. The next one here is the share rate. And this tells you on average how many people each advocate is sharing with. For example, I might decide that I want to share this particular program with 5 of my friends. In that case, the share rate would be 5. So the share rate does vary quite a bit, especially depending on the different channels that your customers might be using. For example, with an older audience, maybe they prefer SMS or email communication, and in that case, they might be sharing with fewer friends versus just posting it once on Facebook. The click rate also ties in very much into what I was talking about on the channel side, and the click rate is where we start looking at the friend metrics and we start getting into the middle of the funnel. So the way that we measure click rate is the number of people that have clicked on the offer depending on the number of shares that you've made. So if you do have an audience that's sharing primarily through email or SMS, you're probably going to see a lower click rate because it's that one-to-one communication. Versus, let's say somebody posts this on Facebook, they're going to have a lot of friends who are actually looking at that particular post and clicking on it, and that's where you'll have a higher click rate. The next step in the funnel is the visit rate. So after somebody's actually clicked on the referral program, what percentage of people are actually visiting your website and starting to browse around? And then finally, the conversion rate. So of the people that have visited your website, what is the final conversion rate? How many of those people actually came through and made a purchase? So again, looking at the funnel, the way that we like to divide this up is top of the funnel here with the advocacy rate and the share rate, middle of the funnel here with the click rate and the visit rate, and then finally right at the bottom of the funnel, the conversion rate. So going back to now benchmarking success, and we'll start getting a little bit more into the weeds here with optimizations and so on. But when you are benchmarking success for your referral program, again, keep in mind what those main goals are and try to come up with your main KPIs. So just some examples here is percent of new customers from referral, for example. So what percent of your overall new customers would you ideally like to see coming in through referral? The second one here, that's probably what's very commonly used with most of our customers, is percent of sales coming in through referrals. So what percent of your sales would you ideally like to see coming in through your referral program? And another example here, finally, is the advocacy rate. The advocacy rate is just a great measure of seeing how engaged your customers are with your particular website, but also if the offer that you're giving to them is motivating enough for them to share it. So advocacy rate tends to be a great measure as well of your referral program. So let's look at optimizing your program a little bit more, and especially those different parts of the funnel. So as I mentioned, you definitely want to promote your program as much as possible to maximize those impressions. This is really, really important, and you want to promote your program in all different parts of your website, as well as on-site, as well as off-site. The more people that you have seeing your referral program, you're just going to get more shares out there and more new customers or more revenue coming in through the end of that funnel. So the impressions right at the top of the funnel is really, really critical to a successful referral program. Now, once you've got a good number of people coming in and seeing the referral program, you want to make sure that the top of your funnel is completely optimized to ensure a high number of shares. You want to maximize now the number of people that are sharing from the number of people that have seen the program. And then getting into the middle of the funnel, this is a great way to really maximize your site visits. Now that you've got those shares out there, how do you make sure that you're maximizing the number of people that are coming through and visiting your website? And then finally, right at the bottom, those conversions to increase the revenue, to increase your new customer acquisition, making sure that you're optimizing that as much as possible. So these are just some examples of all the different things that I spoke about. So increasing the number of site placements and actually promoting your campaign. For a lot of our customers, when you typically start talking to them, they might only want to show this program to existing customers. It's something that we hear over and over again, that maybe the best advocates for me are my existing customers. And that is true. And having a pop-up on the checkout page, targeting through email, that's all really great. But you also want to make sure that you have good on-site placements to promote your program. So I'll actually just skip around here a little bit, but having on-site and off-site CTAs. This is an example from CB2, and they have the referral program right at the top on the banner. And what we actually find is that there's a lot of customers that are going to come onto your site and are very excited about about your brand, but then they would want to refer this to their friends as well. They don't necessarily have to be an existing customer to know if there are other customers that might be interested in you. So we do encourage as much as possible to show that program to your entire set of audience, both your existing as well as your new customers. And then, of course, targeting them through social media as well. As I mentioned, doing this not just on-site, but also doing this off-site. So, for example, on your Facebook page, through Twitter, a lot of your customers are not going to be coming onto your site very frequently. And so if they are following you on social channels, that does mean that they're an engaged audience, and they're probably a good audience to reach out to for referral. So doing email blasts and then leveraging social media is also pretty critical when you're promoting your program. At the end of the day, the more people that you have seeing your program, the more successful it's going to be. There's also a lot of A/B tests that we recommend doing throughout your program to make sure that you're maximizing on the number of shares. An example here is having multiple email fields. So for example, we might only have people sharing this to one person at a time. And so by changing a few things, like adding more email fields, you can hint to your customers that they probably want to share this with more than one person via email at a time. Different customers respond to this differently, so especially when making some of these layout changes, we definitely recommend A/B testing as much as possible. This is another example of just a simple copy test where you say give 10, get 10 versus give 10, get 10 times infinity. It's in that brand language, which is really great. And then also it just hints to the fact that it's not just referring one friend to get $10. They can get $10 over and over and over again. So that's the top of the funnel. Let's get into the middle of the funnel a little bit, and this is what your new customer is going to see. This is typically going to be someone who is unfamiliar with the brand and is getting referred by their friend. And so an example here is testing the format of the email. On the left side, what we have is a more formatted HTML email where we have the brand logo, we've got an image of what the brand is about, and a bit of information about it. On the right side, we have a plain text email. And actually what we find oftentimes is that the plain text email tends to work really well for brands. And the reason for this is when it is a referral, it's coming more from your friends than from that particular brand. And so when it is more of a plain text email, it feels almost a little bit more personal. May not be as pretty, but tends to feel a little bit more personal. Again, this is something that I would definitely recommend testing. And you want to make sure that you're messaging this correctly as well. So if it's a fairly well-known brand that you don't feel that most customers need explanation about what the brand is about, you can certainly reduce the content in that email. But if it does require explanation, maybe having a brand image in there or a little bit more detailed about what the brand is can be really useful. So those are just some things I would consider, and test this as much as possible to try to maximize that click rate. The next step here is increasing the number of site visits as well. So again, in the middle of the funnel where we're really focusing on increasing and maximizing those site visits. An example here of something that we've A/B tested is adding a timer on this claim page. So this is a place where your customer is going to get their coupon code, and by putting this sort of sense of urgency, you might actually find that customers will visit your site faster and purchase faster as well. And so you really want to think about how can you maximize the site visits through the referral program, and what are, again, some of the different tests that you can try to do to maximize on this. And then finally, now we've got the customer at the bottom of the funnel. And so one example here of something that we found works well is making sure that that coupon code is easily accessible. So this is an example from Society 6, where we have a note here that says your credit will be applied to your order. So we do auto-apply it, but we also let them know that their credit will be applied. In some other examples, our customers prefer not to auto-apply, but this banner might be used to actually display the coupon code, or actually sending them an email with their code in it. So making sure that that code is as easily accessible as possible to those customers. So if they did want to make a purchase, it's really easy for them to make a purchase and they don't have to go hunting for that code. And so when you're looking at conversion rate, one thing to keep in mind with referral is that this is somebody who's being introduced by a friend. And so what we often find for conversion is that rate is pretty close to what you'll typically see on site, but even better for most brands. Since it's already a more captive audience, we tend to see a higher conversion rate across most of the companies that we do work with. So moving on to one of the last sections here of the webinar. So deterring fraudsters. Fraud is oftentimes a concern when it comes to coupon misuse. You basically want to make sure that you're giving the correct coupon to the correct person. And I'm sure if there are people from e-commerce, especially on this call, there's a lot of misuse of coupons that you've probably experienced. When you are thinking about coupon misuse, though, I would really urge you to think back to your objectives. If the objective is to maximize revenue, does it really matter that people are using a coupon as long as they're making a purchase? So if that objective is maximizing revenue, maybe fraud isn't as much of a concern. However, if the objective is new customer acquisition and you really want to make sure as much as possible that the only person that is using your coupon code is a new customer, that's when you want to start thinking about having more stringent fraud controls and also blocking some of those self-referrals. So we've got some statistics in here for what we typically see through our programs. We block about 29% of people through cookie tracking. So people might try referring themselves maybe to another email address or just clicking on a link and trying to open it up in a different window. But cookie tracking can be really useful to try to prevent that. Number two is through the same email address. We see this quite often. Typically, customers cannot share with themselves through the same email, but they might then enter that email in a later stage to get the coupon code. So we do find a lot of people trying to use the same email address, and we can block about 21% through that. The third one here is similar email match. And so this is in a case where, let's say it's mihikav@gmail.com is referring mihikasv@yahoo.com. Those are pretty similar emails. They're not exactly the same, but we do tend to see some people trying to attempt to use that as well. IP address and user agent, this is a really interesting one. So we don't typically recommend blocking straight on IP address. And the reason for this is that we see a lot of referrals happening in the same office or on the same college campus, and the IP address will be the same. So you don't want to prevent that type of activity. But adding on user agent, so that would be the device and the type of browser used, that can be really helpful using that in conjunction with IP address. So we typically block about 10% of people through that method. And it's a really good way that if somebody, let's say they try to clear their cookies or they're pretty sophisticated, but if they're on the same IP address and using that same computer, they're probably going to get blocked through this. And then, of course, a combination of the measures above. Typically, for most of our customers, we don't just block on one of these. We use a combination of different things to really try to block this as much as possible. And again, going back to those objectives, if that objective is focusing on new customer acquisition, you probably want to maximize this as much as possible. But also keep in mind that customer service increase can probably be on the rise because of some of these fraud settings. You might have more people writing in and trying to figure out why they didn't get a code. So it's good to be aware of all the pros and cons when you are setting up your program. And then finally, talking about influencers, this is something that we hear a lot from our customers, and we're seeing this grow more and more, especially with social media, is how can we use our influencers for referrals? So there's two ways of thinking about this. One is engaging your influencers with your referral program, and then the second is actually using your referral program to figure out who your influencers are. So on average, 1% of top advocates tend to bring in 18% of all referral program sales. And the top 10 advocates for a website bring on average 10 to 25% of all referral program sales. So these are really, really large numbers. And so if you are thinking about setting up more of an ambassador campaign or an influencer campaign, sometimes setting up a referral program is actually a great way to get the data that you need to figure out who are your influencers, who are your top advocates, and how can you engage them. And so once you figure out who those influencers are, there's definitely a lot to be done through referral as well that can engage them. So you can engage them through referral, loyalty programs as well. That's something that we're working on more and more by providing points, leaderboards, lots of different things to try to engage these influencers. An example here, this is a sweepstakes campaign, which is a leaderboard campaign, and it's focused on getting influencers to share as much as possible to win some sort of top prize. And this is a great way to engage your customers over a specific period of time. We have some of our customers that we work with who do show this to all of their audience, but you can also focus this more on specific ambassadors as well. And then I'll hand it over to Elliot. I know he has a couple more slides he'd like to chat through here.
Yes, thank you so much. Excuse me, that was a lot of really great information, and that was awesome. So I'll run through this quickly. Just wanted to, working for Adroll, felt like I couldn't go through this presentation without also talking about another way that you can promote your referral or review strategy, and that's through display marketing. And as many of us know, just a quick background on display marketing, simply be the ads that we're serving online that are a little bit more visual in their media than you would see in a typical search environment like a Google or a text-based environment. So this would be video, images, sometimes even audio and things like that to really engage with audiences. And they'll typically appear up in your social media streams or on the sides of, articles you might be reading on the New York Times or places like that to really engage with people where they're going online. So how do you do this? One of the best ways to promote through display advertising is to pair it with a performance advertising program. So you can do it with a program like Adroll or someone else, and essentially how this would work is they would pair up with them for, reviews, visual marketing, loyalty, referrals, whatever that would be, to integrate with them to leverage the artificial intelligence on that platform. And what that AI would do is it would automatically match product images that people had views with star ratings and positive reviews or referrals for those specific products, right? So it's really taking that AI, that machine learning, and making sure that, okay, if someone already looked at a product, maybe we can show them this review of it or show them, something else around there to help engage them with that and bring them back to the brand site to complete that purchase. And what this really helps to do is to take some of the more top of funnel aspects of referral campaigns about finding new users and really start bringing them down the funnel. Because as you take those new users who aren't as familiar with your brand, you bring them back to your site, well, then you can start leveraging them with email marketing campaigns if you want them to go to an email, or you can leverage them with, retargeting campaigns as they get cookied on your site, and really make sure that you're getting your brand in front of them more because they're actually interacting, with the different pages of your site and sending those signals to make sure that you can get ad campaigns up and running to get your brand up in front of them more. So it's a really great way to bring top of funnel initiatives out and mesh them with some of the more middle and bottom funnel initiatives that you might have. Super quick, just thought I would run through that. As I had mentioned before, we will move into a Q&A. If you have any questions at this time, please feel free to put them into the Q&A box on your screen. I know one that actually did come through, how often is it that referrals are being given for B2B products or services? We also had someone ask if we have any examples of B2B referrals programs or tactics that might not necessarily offer a straight discount or promo, but something that could be leveraged, I guess, for more long tail initiatives. So just pass that back to Mihika to answer really quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So for us, most of the experience that I've definitely had is with consumer brands, but we have had experience with B2B services. And so again, this does go back to your specific audience. Some examples where we've tried B2B programs is, let's say, for accounting software, or products like that where somebody in a company can refer somebody else in another company. And so we have seen some success there. In terms of the actual incentives, this actually applies not only to B2B but also to B2C products. We have tried a few times having no incentives associated with the referral program. And then this does work for certain companies that have a really high NPS score. We have seen this work. But for most companies, some sort of incentive tends to work well. And typically for B2B, what we'll end up doing is some sort of gift card, like let's say an Amazon gift card or something like that, because this is typically like a subscription and it's harder to give that incentive off a subscription, but you can certainly give out gift cards, and that tends to work really well for some of these B2B products.
Yeah, that's great. I know NPS has been a huge thing for us as well, and I definitely agree that can be great. So, okay, we are running out of time here, and I want to make sure that we can get all of you on with your day. So if you do have any more questions, we would both love to answer them, either of us. If you have any questions specifically for Talkable, please feel free to email marketing@talkable.com. If you have any for Adroll, for myself, anything about our business, whatever it might be, you can email customermarketing@adroll.com, and that will come directly to me as well. But other than that, I just wanted to thank Talkable and Mahika again. It was really great, and thank everyone for attending, and wish you all a great day.
All right. Bye. Thanks, everyone.